When we coach executives, we don't just ask you for your expectations, but we also ask you, what are your intentions? It's so easy to sit back during any kind of engagement, during an event, during a journey of any kind, and say, here's what I expect to get. Here's what I expect from the facilitator, from the speaker, from the coach, from the sponsor, from the trainer. But what are your intentions? Because at the end of the day, what I have found in my work is that unless you have paired your expectations with your intentions, you're probably not going to get the kind of transformation you want. So today, on this episode of the Unlearners podcast, we're going to talk about how to make sure you are clear on your intentions during change so that you can super fast track your transformation. Welcome to the Unlearners podcast. The Unlearners. Learn, change. Learn, change. The Unlearners. The Unlearners. The Unlearners. Learn, change, grow. Really excited for this episode because this is a distinction I love to make often. Don't just set an expectation, but also set an intention. So let's talk about what the difference is between those two things first. Then I'm going to share with you 3 key steps that you can take to make sure that you're clear on your intention, but also that you fast track your transformation process just by using the power of the science of habit creation, but also the power of intention to make sure that you get the result that you are after. All right, so let's start here. What's the difference between an expectation and an intention? Now, the two can overlap, and often I've noticed that people use the two in different instances to mean the same thing, but it's very much up to you. But this is how I define the two. An expectation is something that feels a lot more passive. So an expectation is here is what I am hoping to receive. It has a receiving energy in it. So here's what I can't wait to hear from the conference, or here's what I can't wait to see when I get there, or here's who I can't wait to meet when I get there. So can you feel how an expectation is almost as saying, here's what I hope my environment gives me. Here's what I hope my coach, my facilitator, my trainer gives me, or the experience that I receive. It's more, I expect to receive. And so that's expectation. And then on the other end of that, then feeling a lot less passive, feeling a lot more intentional, to use that word, I guess, here, but feeling a lot more present, feeling a lot more internal locus of control is the intention. So when you've set an expectation around, okay, I'm going to this conference, or I've just asked the Unlearners to work with us, and maybe Zanele or one of her neuro coaches is coaching me and supporting me. Here are my expectations. I expect that my coach is always going to show up on time, nice and early for our coaching sessions. I expect that my coach is always going to be well prepared. I expect that I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 result. I expect I'm going to be in an environment that makes it safe for me to share openly, and to establish a sense of psychological safety. So those are all things that you expect because they are more you as a receiver. So they view or hold you as the receiver of a certain result. Intentions, on the other hand, is what am I willing to give? What am I holding myself to actually creating? What am I holding myself to actually ensuring occurs? What am I committing to? What am I taking accountability for? So for example, if we are thinking once again about that coaching example, an intention could be, I intend to always show up on time. So yes, I expect my coach to always be nice and early for our coaching session, but I intend to always be on time. I intend to do and complete all the given, we'll call it homework for the purposes of this conversation, all of the homework that my coach and I agree on during the session. I intend to dedicate myself fully to this coaching journey as an executive, as a leader. I intend to make the most of our time together. I intend to share openly. I intend to be transparent. So can you feel how intention is you as an individual who has a level of autonomy and control over the situation? Expectation says, hey, I don't know if I'm going to get this, but I expect it. But I'm holding out for this. I'm going to look out for this. Intention, on the other hand, says, I am going to take accountability for making sure that this happens. So that's the distinct difference that I really would love to invite you to hear. And next time when you get into a conversation, when you get into a meeting, maybe this is one that's worth having a conversation about, starting with saying, okay, team, what are your expectations, but also what are your intentions? And what I find a lot of the time is that we set expectations when we come into an event. And obviously I do a lot of events because I do a lot of keynote speaking. I do run a lot of workshops. But the conversation that we start with is often, okay, what are your expectations? And then we close off with that. And so there isn't necessarily a sense of accountability from the receiver, but it's more, hey, person who's running the day, hey, leader, hey, facilitator, this is what you need to show up for. And although that's great because it helps the facilitator, it helps the leader to guide how they facilitate the session, what they deliver, but also this is a two-way street. Any kind of transformation needs us to have these beautiful expectations that we set, but also for us to take accountability for what is on our plate, for what we can control, what we can influence, and really take ownership of that journey. Because like you would have seen or you would have listened to with one of our probably one of my favorite episodes to have recorded, episode 34, that says, don't ask for change if you're not ready for it. And one of the biggest ideas in that episode, which was step 3 in the framework that I shared, is intentionality. Be intentional about what you are going in with, because if you're not ready for change, you're not going to transform. It's not going to fully land. You're not going to fully build the new defaults and create brand new habits and shift behaviors. So a big part of it really is that intentionality. So next time when you start a meeting, when you start an event, really try to do this. Think about, okay, what are the intentions that we have, but also what are the expectations that we're setting for the session, so that people are not only expecting others to give to them, but also they are willing to give to others. Then it becomes a conversation around reciprocity. How do we both take accountability for making sure that this experience that we're creating, this meeting that we're building together, has both of us co-creating it in tandem. So both of us are contributing quite beautifully to making sure that it's a success, and it's not just the job of one party within the bigger or greater scheme of things. Okay, so that's the distinct difference I wanted to make between expectations and intentions. Now, I'm going to share 3 things that you can do, 3 steps. These are actually steps that you can follow to make sure that next time, as you transition, as you transform, whatever the change that you're going through is, if you ramp up your intentionality, so you become more intentional about what you want to achieve, you can actually accelerate how quickly it takes you to build the new habit, to shift the behavior, to become this next version of yourself. All right, let's get right into it. Step number 1. This one probably goes without saying, but it's always worth mentioning and is still a great part of the work that we do when we help organizations rethink their cultures. So culture transformation work that we do at the Unlearners, but also the work that we do specifically around strategy. This is still a very big part, the step number 1. And what is step number 1? Step number 1 is know who you want to become. Oh goodness, I can't stress this one enough, because often the focus is, here's what I don't want to be anymore. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to check my phone just before bed and then first thing in the morning every single time. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to carry out that behavior. But here's an example for you that I often share. And I would like to invite you to do this with me. Don't think about a purple elephant. Don't think about a purple elephant. Don't think about its big, cute purple ears or its cute, short purple tail and how big and cute and purple it is. Now, when I share that exercise with teams that we work with, oftentimes I ask people to raise their hands if they thought about a purple elephant that entire time. And quite a few hands go up in the room very, very often. And a lot of the time it is more than half the room, because when we focus in on what we don't want to build, then all we get as a result is more of the behavior that we're trying to unlearn. And so the trick there is, and if you go over to episode number 3, how to unlearn, you get this insight quite well from this episode, and I guide you through steps if you're on an unlearning journey. But you really want to focus in on who you want to become. Be very, very clear on what that looks like. So for example, if you are having some kind of you're on a transformation journey at work, maybe you've just changed roles within your organization, but you're finding it really tricky to step fully into that role. You want to be very clear by executing step 1 to understand, what is it that I want to be? Who do I see myself becoming in this new role? So for example, if you've now just been promoted to assistant manager as an investment banker, and maybe before you were in a different role altogether. But now you want to really think about, who is it that you want to be in this role as a manager, as a leader of some sort? Who is that person that you see yourself becoming if you fully step into this role? What does that person reflect? What are their values? How do they have conversations? What are the results that they achieve? How do they make people feel? Be very, very clear on this identity that you now want to embody, because any kind of change process, whether it's one that's personal or one, that's professional, is all around a new identity that we need to embody and let go of one that maybe we no longer want to hold, we no longer want to associate with. So ask yourself and be very, very clear here as to what the identity is that you now want to embody. If it is something as simple as not checking your phone last thing at night, first thing in the morning, then who is the person that you want to be? You want to be the person, for example, be super specific and say things like, I want to be the kind of person who last hour before bedtime is just dimmed lights, is calm, is peace, and anything that disrupts me isn't in the room because I'm just filled with the softness. I've dimmed the lights. I'm using my my goggles that cover all or hide all the blue lights and the white light. Whatever it is, define that rather than defining what you no longer want to do. So be very, very clear on the characteristics and the definition of who you are becoming. So that's step number 1. Sit with that for a little bit. Journal on it. Really, really be clear on who that person is that you are now becoming or intend to become. Step number 2 then is really where the big work is. Set a clear and specific intention. What are you intending to do? So often when we start a transformation process or journey, and this is what we see a lot with the coaching, the executive coaching work that we do. And if you're interested in that, definitely do reach out to our team, hey@theunlearners.com, and we would be more than happy to support you. If you're on a transformation journey, whether it's personal or professional, mainly it is executive and leadership coaching that we do. So if that is where you are at the moment, definitely do reach out, and we would be more than happy to support you to unlearn and relearn as a leader, as an individual that is making a transformative change in your organization, but also in your personal life. Now, step number 2 is all about saying, what is it that I intend to achieve? What am I holding myself accountable to? Let alone that I've got expectations that I'm going to go out into this journey. Oh, I can't wait. Maybe in 2 years' time, I expect to be this kind of leader. I expect to be in that role within my organization. What are your intentions then? What are you intending to do? What are you actually going to take accountability to influence? So for example, some of your intentions might be, I intend to always show up as my best. I intend to always speak up when I feel I have something valuable to contribute. I intend to make time during each week or each day to mentor a fellow team member. What are your intentions? What are you putting down on the line, and what are you holding yourself accountable to? But also, what can others hold you as a leader, as an individual, accountable to as well? So with the intentions, you want to think about maybe making a list. Try not to have too many of them. Really make them as specific, but possibly as few as is possible. So for example, if we are thinking about the leadership conversation and you're starting a leadership journey, I would ask you to set 3 clear intentions. So I intend to always be the kind of leader that people can come to if they really want to have a conversation with me. I intend to be the kind of leader who always shows up at my best. Set those intentions and then clearly define what they look like. You can map out a few examples of what that looks like in practice, but set as few but as focused and value aligned or culture aligned as is possible. So that's the second piece. Step number 1 was know who you want to become and clearly define that. Step number 2 was set a clear, specific intention. What are you intending? What's your intention going into this transformation journey? And then the very last step then is, this is probably one of my absolute favorites, and I've brought this one in because a large chunk of the work we do is sustaining behavior change. It's one thing to say, I'm really excited, I'm going to jump into this new version of myself. But if you can't sustain and build the habits that create the new behavior or that turn you into the new person, then you haven't in essence transformed. You still have your previous self as a default. And the purpose of transformation is introducing a new default, building a habit so that when you are in a situation that calls you to respond, your first and dominant response is this new habit, is this new version of you. So step number 3 then is at different times in the day. Now this is an exercise that I always find really exciting, is set an alarm, and you can play around with this. If an alarm is not the type of thing you can do because of your work environment, you can see what works for you. But set an alarm at 2 key times of the day, or 3 depending on what you're comfortable with, but let's play around with the number 2 key times in the day. So once in the morning and then once in the afternoon. So for example, if I wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, I might set my first alarm for 10 a.m. And then my next one might be for 12, for example, or for 1 o'clock. And then I might knock off around 4 or 5, depending on the kind of work that I do and the shift, maybe if I'm working shift as well. So once you've set those alarms at those key times, what you're going to do at those key times is you're going to reset your intention. So you've written your intention down, but what happens with intention is that as the day goes on, and you might know this, as the day goes on, you are bogged down with what is often known as the whirlwind, is the day-to-day, the admin, the drudgery of your role that happens on a day-to-day, the tasks, the on-the-go conversations, the hey, I need this thing by close of business today, and that and this and that, and maybe one of your children falls sick and you have to run around and do all sorts of things, so you get caught in the whirlwind. And so the intention you had originally set when you started the day, opened your eyes in the morning, oh, I'm going to be kinder today, I'm going to extend more kindness, that intention has often gone out of the window, and now you are just intending to get things done and not die. So what do? When you hear this alarm, and you can set 2 or you can set 3, like I said, during that time when the alarm goes off, and you can even put it as the text on your alarm, because you can do that on certain devices, and say, I'm intending to be kind today. Are you being kinder today? Or have you been kind so far? And just almost create these cues during the day, or these anchors during the day that remind you of the intention you've set. And before you know it, if you do this for 2 weeks, before you know it, you will already have it building within your brain. You will have formed those pathways within your brain, although not as strong as they could possibly be, because it takes consistency to build a habit. You will see that it will start to become something that feels natural. You will even start reminding yourself of your intention before that alarm goes off. It will become second nature to bring that intention in. And the more often you can keep reminding yourself that you are intending to be professional today, you're intending to be kind today, you're intending to be empathetic today, you'll find that things will just start to gravitate towards that intention. You will be more strategic about how you show up. And then people will start to see that intention come through in your actions, in your words, in how you carry yourself within that space of time. Because now it's not just an expectation. You're not just waking up in the morning, opening up your gorgeous eyes and saying, hey, I expect everyone to be kind to me today. But rather what you're saying is, I intend, I am making a conscious, dedicated choice to be the one who shows kindness. So it has a different energy. And when we share that kindness, we do find that the principle of reciprocity and the mirror neurons that are constantly operating within all of us are going to invite everyone to do the exact same thing to you, even if they don't at first. So you really want to think about, how do I intend that? So let's go through those 3 steps one more time and then close off. So you're going to start with knowing who you want to become, being super clear on that version of yourself that you are building, not what you are unlearning, as tempting as that can be. Second thing you're going to do is you're going to set a clear and specific intention. Now, you might already have this intention. If you do, then you're all clear to move right ahead. Just make sure that that intention is specific and you know exactly what it looks like in practice. Oftentimes we say, I'm going to be happy today. I'm going to be kind today was one of the ones we used. As long as you have a very clear idea as to what that looks like in practice, so you can measure it and you know that it's happening. That's really important to keep in mind. Now, once you've set that clear and specific intention, last thing you're going to do is you're going to check in at key times within the day and then reset that intention, revive that intention, recharge that intention, and just almost brush that intention up, bring it back into your day, because we do tend to jump back into the whirlwind. We do have these defaults that have been set. And the process of unlearning and relearning really is about introducing a new default and saying, I understand that there's a new version of myself that I need to, or that I'd like to embody, but it is going to take intentionality and consistency, because it's all about changing behaviors. And behavior change is all about building new habits. And habits, once again, take consistency and intentionality. All right, so that's it for today, Unlearner. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, but also you found it fairly practical and it helps you to be a better intention setter. But not just that the episode helps you to be the type of person that can use setting a clear, specific, compelling intention to supercharge your transformation journey, to help you get to the person that you want to be even faster, even quicker, but also to sustain it better, because quick is not always best. You really want to make sure when it comes to unlearning and relearning that you can sustain that change in behavior. I want to close off by inviting you, if you are the type of person who's intending to be a better version of you, or to be the next best version of you, whatever that looks like, come and join us for the Unlearning Experience, our annual retreat that happens every year in November. Come and join us this year. Go over to theunlearners.com/retreat to sign up and join our waitlist if the waitlist is up there, or if doors have opened, depending on when you listen to this. Go ahead and book your ticket. We've got 3 different ticket types and we can't wait. We can't wait to hold space for you. We can't wait to party with you. You can't wait to transform with you if you are the type of person who is gaga or absolutely in love with the process of just becoming better and growing and learning and changing, very much like I am. Then you're going to absolutely adore the retreat, because it is a way of wrapping up your year and then starting a brand new year on a great note and stepping into the person you now choose to become, because we're always evolving. And what better way to be intentional about your evolution than holding space for yourself, dedicating these 3 beautiful days in this wonderful environment amongst other unlearners to really unravel and then become. Thank you very much, Unlearner, for listening to this episode of the Unlearners podcast. Please make sure that you have subscribed to the podcast and share with us your feedback. Go over and rate and review the podcast. We always love hearing from you and your experience of the podcast as well. Look after yourselves. It's been myself, Zanele Njapa, the Unlearning Lady, and it's bye for now. The Unlearners. Learn, change, grow. Learn, change, grow. The Unlearners. The Unlearners. The Unlearners. Learn, change, grow.